He didn't look particularly special. The purple-haired man looked at him, still gasping for breath. But suddenly the aura around him shifted, surprising him. What was that? An emotionless killing intent. The killing intent swirling around Adele filled everyone with dread, like picking a flower or killing an insect. It wasn't the primal killing intent of wild beasts, but the aura of the most cruel murderers. Suddenly, all the instructors' attention focused on him, and their bodies reacted before they even realized the man was drawing his sword. The principal glanced at him, perhaps sensing the principal's intent. Felt a little anxious, he thought to himself, damn it, am I really feeling anxious facing a rookie applicant? The short-haired man beside him turned and gave a cryptic smile. The new students were almost all collapsed on the floor. Adele trembled, but still managed to stay seated. His mind was about to break, he was on the verge of losing it. He had to find a way to endure. He gritted his teeth, thinking, wait, what if I use my killing intent? Maybe it's enough to counter her aura. Knowing he was about to collapse, he decided to gamble. He had no other choice. He yelled, his eyes turning red, and the killing intent around him turned a fiery red. The principal looked towards Adele. He's holding up quite well. Should I increase the intensity a little? An ominous presence was encroaching, just a little more. Adele's red aura enveloped him, resisting the intrusion from the principal's aura. Principal Lucian was a little surprised. Adele gasped. Seemingly regaining his strength, he could stand comfortably. It really worked. He felt much better now. Adele quickly turned to Renee. Right, how's Renee? She seemed unaffected and remained standing. She's holding up well, as expected. Turning to the others who remained, the inheritors of the 7 deadly sins were also doing quite well. The man with golden eyes, the inheritor of envy, Baltan. The girl with 2 horns on her forehead, the inheritor of lust, Prone. The young man with green eyes, the inheritor of gluttony, Samuel. The mysterious-looking man, the inheritor of sloth, Aaron. The large, muscular man, the inheritor of greed, Gower. Renee's back, several characters built with genuine affection, but all of them were destined to be killed by the main characters. Adele looked at Renee and frowned, the 6 of them, including Renee. Adele suddenly noticed a familiar figure, that long white hair. A girl, red eyes, and a brown thorn crown. Adele was shocked, there was no mistaking it. That girl, with her fiery red eyes and completely unaffected by the principal's power, was the future's worst demon in the demonic realm, the Demon King, the inheritor of wrath, Diana. The announcement rang out, all right, the first round is over. Adele was still concentrating, thinking, the Demon King always comes from the Wrath family, so there's no reason for her to be here. He looked at the girl, the successor to the Demon King, who came to Saitan as an applicant. What's going on that I don't know about? Someone yelled, catching Adele's attention. I failed, no way. The purple-haired man stood there with his arms crossed, while the students protested together. What kind of exam is this? Don't you dare touch me. Do you know who my father is? One of them yelled, calling for the principal, when a large hand grabbed his face. It was the purple-haired man. He glared. I don't care who your father is, understand? The guy just now could only tremble. The purple-haired man released his hand and bluntly told everyone, don't make me repeat myself. The guy collapsed to the ground. The man declared decisively, those who couldn't even last 5 minutes in the first test are not needed here, the failures are eliminated. The announcement sounded, closing the gates. Adele smiled in relief. Saitan is truly ruthless. Luckily, I passed. Then he turned to look at the principal, thinking, now that I think about it, that girl is the principal of Saitan. I knew it, I've seen her somewhere before. He assessed the principal. Although she looks cute, she is one of the strongest people in the demon world. Lucian, principal of Saitan, clutched his sword. I was lucky to pass the first round, but I need to be more careful because I could fail at any time, because there will be fewer people who pass the second test. A murmur arose. Adele turned. Amazon, I guess that's Renee, the fighting genius of the Bears family, right? Renee stood there, and those around her stopped whispering, looking at him. He thought, Renee seems pretty famous. An orange-haired young man with an arrogant expression was surrounded by people. It's understandable, as he's the heir of the 7 deadly sins clan, and they withstood the headmistress' overwhelming killing intent. Tears welled up in his eyes, but why wasn't anyone paying attention to him? 2 figures behind him watched him judgmentally. Renee approached. You passed too, huh? He replied, yes, I passed. Pondering, but maybe I should be satisfied because I created the impression that I am not an ordinary candidate. Surely the lecturers and principal will remember me." A purple-haired man shouted, "Attention!" Everyone quickly paid attention. He announced, "I'll introduce myself. My name is Aries, and I'm the instructor in charge of teaching you all." However, the students didn't seem to think so. Breaking into a sweat, he looked like the type to carry a sashimi knife in his pocket. Instructor Aries turned to the students, "Congratulations on passing the first test of mental strength. It was a test to see if you could stay sane in a situation where you might be tortured by humans in the future." The girl, heir to the Lust P, crossed her arms and smirked. Additionally, the 8 candidates who remain until the end will receive bonus points, and if you perform well in the second test, you'll be allowed into the armory. Hearing that, he couldn't contain his joy. The armory, how lucky, thank God I decided to persevere to the end. A heavy wave of killing intent emanated from the unfriendly gazes of everyone towards him, and he could feel the envy from others. Aries continued, "Now I will explain the second test." Renee listened intently. "In the second test, you will demonstrate your abilities. Specifically, you will show us the talents and weapons you can use to fight against humanity. The class you're assigned to may depend on this test, so keep that in mind." Adele thought, he probably means we'll be assigned to the appropriate class depending on the type of weapon and talent we use. I wonder what kind of humans we'll be facing. Instructor Aries raised his hand, casting a spell and shouting, "The assignment for your second test, and the human you will face, is this." The lecturer's hand immediately appeared a small blue light. Then it immediately swirled strongly, forming a giant vortex, right next door. A figure appeared. That person had a tiger's head on his chest, holding a long, sharp sword. Everyone was surprised, even Adele. "Wait, that's not the strongest hero among the heads of the 6 great families. The resolute face of a legend." Adele was surprised. "Why is that human here? This is too much of a coincidence." But Renee seemed very calm, turning to ask, "Adele, do you know who that is?" He thought, "Of course, I do. That's 9 Cell, the head of the 9 clan. He's closely related to the protagonist in the original story. It's not just a close relationship, his bloodline was predetermined from birth. He's the father of the protagonist, the Sword Saint. He created the strongest clan solely through his talent." 2 boys nearby were discussing, "That's the Sword Saint, aren't they trying to eliminate us from the start?" Adele looked around and thought that others also knew him. "Well, he did defeat quite a few demon clans." Instructor Aries calmly explained, "Of course, we don't expect all of you to be able to withstand the Sword Saint's full power. He will only use a maximum of 10% of his strength." Everyone listened attentively. "If he used his full power, we wouldn't stand a chance." Renee turned, 10% isn't too easy." Adele smiled, "Not at all, even weakened, a monster is still a monster." Adele looked towards the Sword Saint with apprehension. 10% of the Sword Saint's power could easily destroy a city. I wonder how this recruitment will pass this cruel test. He thought, there must be a certain standard they expect to pass. If possible, I want to use the information scrolls, but we don't have much money, and the number of questions is limited. The instructor continued to announce the format of the next test. "With your current level, you can't face him alone, so we'll divide you into teams of 4, to ensure fairness. The top 8 from the first test will be placed in separate positions, and the remaining students will be randomly assigned." Hearing that, he became pensive. "The top 8, that definitely includes the heir of the 7 deadly sins and me. Well, looks like I'm getting a boost." Renee seemed to be followed by the admiring gazes of the male students, but she didn't seem to care. "Those looks again, I'm used to them now." Adele, on the other hand, received unfriendly stares. "They're saying things like I got lucky with the draw, and the others are all trash." A small hand gently touched Adele as Renee. She whispered to him, "Get over it and come back safely." Adele smiled, "Yes, I wish you success too, Miss Renee. Now I will call out the names, starting with Group 1. Adele is informed of his group. Group 33, Group Leader, Kina. Group Member, Chris Sanchez. He went to his team. "I don't recognize those names much. Are they minor characters with little significance in the original story?" He looked at his group's formation. Gently introduced, "I am, nice to meet you all." The white-haired young man enthusiastically said, "Hi, I'm Chris, this is Kina." The blonde girl waved, "Hello." The remaining person seemed annoyed. That was Sanchez. He didn't say anything. Sanchez glared at Adele with a sneer. "A half-demon as the team leader, what a disgrace to my family. He could only grit his teeth in helplessness. For 2 hours, even the nameless low ranks looked down on him, insulting his family. He thought he was one of the 7 deadly sins heirs. Adele turned to the other two. Well, let's do our best then. I'll try my best. Adele proactively assigned roles. First, we need to assign roles. Share the type of weapon or ability you use. Let's start with you, Chris. He demonstrated his ability with his hand. My ability is mana manipulation. I can deploy this triangular prism and transform it into armor or a sword. He demonstrated its flexibility. It doesn't have high offensive power, but it's very versatile. I understand. Adele was satisfied. Not bad at all, you pass. Next, Kina. She enthusiastically replied, I'm not really suited for combat. I'm more of a support type, Kina crossed her arms in front of her chest and performed a spell. Yes, I pray to the demon god to increase my allies' speed. A magical source manifested. Adele watched attentively. After casting, Kina was out of breath. Huff, huff, how is it, do you feel lighter? Adele calmly replied, yeah, I think so. Kina was furious. You're terrible. Adele quickly tried to smooth things over with Kina. Haha, I was just kidding, don't be sad. But Adele secretly thought, it's better than nothing, but it was so weak that I barely felt anything. Honestly, I don't know how she passed the first test. Now, turning to the grumpy Sanchez. As he spoke, he demonstrated his ability. My ability is. He proudly showed off, this. Adele smiled. Oh, hardening, perfect for the tank position. Immediately, he turned to Adele and said loudly, your turn. Adele disappeared. Then suddenly reappeared right next to Sanchez. Surprising him, Adele introduced, teleportation. He lightly held his sword. That's my ability. Sanchez turned pale. Kina and Chris were surprised and applauded. Wow, amazing, teleportation, that's a truly great ability. Haha, thanks for the compliment. Adele still thought to himself, still, who knows what variables might occur, so I won't reveal all the details of my abilities yet. Now Adele assigned simple positions for the team. Chris and Sanchez, those good at defense, will be in the front, I'll be in the middle, and Kina will support me from the back. He asked everyone, does everyone think this is okay? Kina agreed, sounds good. Sanchez remained silent. An announcement rang out, we will begin the second test. Each team, prepare yourselves. Finally, it's starting. The instructor shouted, Team 1, step forward. Adele watched attentively. Wow, even facing a sword saint, their eyes still burn with fighting spirit. The sword saint swung his sword, with a single strike sending all of Team 1 flying. Adele watched in shock. A member of Team 1 was hit in the stomach, rolling on the ground in pain. Adele stared in astonishment. I didn't even see him move. Was that really only 10% of his power? The instructor shouted, next, Team 2. Just like Team 1, Team 2 was similarly struck. Everyone became more anxious. Next, Team 3. Instructor Aries called out, Team 4, step forward. 2 members stepped forward. No way. He said to the instructor, it's pointless, we'll definitely lose. Instructor Aries silently looked at the 2 students. Then said, alright, you 2 can skip the test. To the remaining 2, will you continue? One replied, yes, we'll try. Adele seemed to sense something. They're actually continuing. I understand. The condition to pass this second test is probably. Chris was surprised. What, they don't need to take the test? Adele smiled. Of course not. The other 2 students prepare. Group of 4 begins. Adele watched and thought, you 2 can't deal with 90 cell, let's watch a little more. Again, a single strike from the holy sword sent them flying. The man screamed in pain. Adele watched helplessly. If he'd used true sword energy, they would have been cut in 2. Chris panicked. Asterisk, can we really defeat a monster like that? Asterisk, Sanchez remained brash. Asterisk, are you really afraid of an ordinary human? Adele smiled at Sanchez. Asterisk, I can hear his legs trembling from here. Still just 1 strike from the holy sword. Group 5. Defeated trainees lay scattered. Group 9. The situation seemed more tense than Adele had anticipated. Group 10. Step forward. Asterisk, we surrender. Renee watched impassively. Group 20. The next group of trainees prepared. Group 30. Step forward, thinking, asterisk, by the time we reach Group 30, a total of 5 groups have already given up. not a single group could land an effective blow on the holy sword. Renee observed the concentrated battle against the holy sword, a fight against an unbeatable opponent with no restrictions on quitting mid-battle. In addition, a trainee blocked a blow from the holy sword with his sword. Chris was astonished. Wow, he blocked it. Adele remained silent. The later battles lasted longer, their skills were better than those of the previous contestants. This time, Adele looked at the holy sword and said, I understand, so that's the real condition to pass the second test. Sanchez, still arrogant, shouted, It's almost our turn. Chris replied, Yeah, I'm shaking. Adele told them, I've figured out how to pass the second test. Sanchez was surprised. What do you mean? Adele smiled. The criterion is that even if you lose to overwhelming power, you must still get up and fight to the end. Judging by how the instructors handled those who gave up and the holy sword's power, I'm sure of it. Sanchez questioned but explained, why don't we? Instructor Aries shouted, Next, Group 33. Adele drew his sword and smiled, let's try defeating the holy sword, with our strength, we can do it. Sanchez hesitated, what? Kina and Chris were enthusiastic, sure, let's try, yeah, it's okay to lose. Adele chuckled inwardly, so what if I'm only a half-demon, with the talent of the strongest villain, I can win. The group took their positions, and the designated member shouted, All right, let's begin. He thought, unlike the main character, I don't have much information about Cell because it wasn't clearly stated before, what should I do now? He reassured his teammates, Don't worry, hold your positions and fight. Both Chris and Sanchez trusted him. Okay, I already knew that. The holy sword began its attack. Adele shouted, He's coming. The holy sword swung its blade. Chris's shield shattered. Chris was sent flying. Adele shouted, Kina, protect Chris. She rushed to him, leave it to me, I need to reduce the impact when he falls. Adele worriedly watched from the front. Sanchez, he's still holding his position, I know. The holy sword continued its attacks towards them. Sanchez stood firm, blocking the blow. He did it, I held firm, Adele patted his shoulder, great job. Adele noticed just before the second strike, a gap appeared. He looked at the holy sword, considering, this opening is too obvious, my instincts tell me not to risk it. Adele sensed it, could he be setting a trap? Adele quickly turned to his team and shouted, The second attack is coming, get into position. Crete tried to raise his shield, damn it. Adele began to feel uneasy, Crete had reached his limit, Sanchez's hands were also beginning to crack. Adele tried to remain calm, just one attack, and it's already like this isn't good, let's try a little longer. The holy sword's next strike. Adele worried again. The attack came straight at them. Sanchez began to crack and was almost unable to hold on much longer, it's even stronger. Sanchez yelled at Adele, What are you waiting for, like this, we'll all die, we need to hold on a little longer. Sanchez cursed furiously, that crazy bastard, Adele was still calculating. We're the only team that blocked the second strike, are you intending to do the same, the holy sword silently observed. Stared at the group. Adele suddenly realized something. Kina called Chris. Adele rushed over and asked, Are you okay, Chris? Adele, voice trembling, said to Chris, I know it's hard, but just trust me one more time. Sanchez turned around and shouted, What are you doing, Adele? He's about to attack again. Chris asked, You have a plan, right? Adele nodded, Yeah. Adele suddenly transformed into his previous monstrous form, I'm going to stab him in the throat. Chris and Kina were shocked. The holy swordsman prepared to strike. Sanchez yelled, He's coming, Chris. Adele stood behind him and said, Sanchez, you have to hold on this time without Chris's barrier. Sanchez panicked, What do you mean? The holy swordsman immediately attacked. Sanchez couldn't defend against the blow. He was sent flying. Adele jumped and used his magic, Position Transfer 2. Alone against the holy swordsman. When he launched his next attack, Position Transfer 2 activated. Adele leaped, swapping the swordsman's weapon. Standing before the holy swordsman. Adele launched his attack, Die, 90 Cell. Adele charged with lightning speed. Instructor Aries frowned unhappily, staring intently at him. Renee involuntarily followed his gaze. The holy swordsman's knee slammed into Adele's chest. Luckily, the barrier blocked it. A red streak of blood sprayed onto the floor. Adele endured the pain. Damn it, I have to push through again. Adele struggled to dodge the attack to continue utilizing his dark attribute. A black vortex enveloped him. Inside the vortex, Adele thought, if it weren't for Chris's barrier inside me, I would have exploded. The position swap failed, but at least I trapped him. The holy swordsman's back was before a pitch-black space, devoid of any light. I couldn't see anything inside either. But I have the dark fang. In this space, it's stronger than any weapon. Adele stood behind the holy swordsman. I'll defeat him with everything I've got. The holy swordsman suddenly sensed something. He turned around, surprising him. With dizzying speed, he lunged forward and raised his fist toward Adele. This guy's a monster. He spread his arms. One eye glowed red. Adele smiled faintly. The mirror, which had been in Adele's hand, suddenly appeared in a different location. It was behind the holy swordsman. Adele held out his hand in front of him. This time, you're the one being tricked, holy swordsman. Not just one, but many holy swords appeared in this space. Adele suddenly clenched his fist. Black blade rain. Countless blades shot forward, repeatedly stabbing the holy swordsman. Everyone outside was still focused on the vortex. Chris worried, what the heck is happening in there? Instructor Aries calmly said, it seems like it's about to end. The vortex gradually disappeared. Adele stood there as if nothing had happened. The vortex disappeared completely. The sword saint had fallen on the floor and was standing there. Everyone was astonished. Everyone's attention was on him. He was satisfied. In this silent atmosphere, he thought, I did it. The orange-haired boy looked on and exclaimed, that was incredibly interesting. Chris and Kina ran towards him joyfully. Chris praised, that was truly amazing. How did you do that? Adele just smiled. It's all thanks to everyone's good teamwork. Adele turned to Kina and asked, what about Sanchez? He was a bit shocked, but the instructors are helping him recover. Adele raised his sword. Well, that's good then. He then approached the sword saint. So, shall we end this? Chris and Kina were dumbfounded. And, isn't it already over? The sword saint's legs suddenly twitched. Chris looked on in amazement. What are you doing? Adele turned his head and said, well, don't we need to make sure he's really dead? Instructor Aries stared intently. A captivating figure exclaimed. She said, full of arrogance, for a half-demon, he's not bad. The man beside her said, but compared to, he's nothing special, of course not. She continued to talk about Adele. He was born inferior. No matter what, his true nature will be revealed. She went on and on, unaware of how foolish and vulgar she was. Renee, radiating killing intent, stood there staring at her. She seemed a little flustered. Girl, what the heck, who is that? Renee glared at her. Does she recognize those horns as bears? Why is she looking at me like that? She trembled. That's terrifying. Those around them whispered, truly the heir of the 7 deadly sins. They've entered a threatening battle. Who will win? Her fervent followers cheered. Of course it's Fran. That girl isn't even worthy of being a side dish, she thought. I mean, maybe she's not that weak. Adele suddenly noticed something behind him. He looked. Wait, isn't that Renee? Why is she radiating such killing intent? Suddenly, someone called out to Adele from behind. Instructor Aries. He approached and stared intently. Adele turned around, smiled, and asked, yes, what's the matter? Instructor Aries said sternly, you seriously don't know? Adele calmly replied, yes, I don't. Instructor Aries turned and walked away. From now on, I'll be keeping an eye on you. Adele sighed in relief. I thought I'd get praised or something. Looks like I'll have to keep an eye on Renee. Renee, she's fighting another student again. She's brimming with killing intent towards her opponent. Adele was surprised. Wow, they're still at it. He wondered, and who is that girl facing her? Blue eyes, long hair, she's from the Laurel Fran, the Lust clan. But why would she want to fight Renee here? I've been so focused on the human world that I'm completely clueless about the demon world. The girl, Fran, suddenly saw Adele. Standing there, watching. She shouted, pointing at Adele, hey, half-demon. Adele was startled. Why is she suddenly calling me? Pointing directly at Adele, she yelled, become my slave. Renee, full of killing intent, charged forward. Adele yelled, Renee. She leaped, drawing the sword from her back, aiming for Fran. Fran frowned, looking at Renee in surprise before she could react. Somewhat frightened, she yelled at Renee, are you crazy? Noticing a conflict from the students, the instructor promptly shouted loudly and stopped. Renee looked up at Saitan, forbidding all meaningless disputes. The girl luckily parried Renee's blow. They were told to settle their personal grievances outside. Adele breathed a sigh of relief. Phew, Aries stopped it. Thankfully, nothing happened before the 7 deadly sins enrollment ceremony. Renee sheathed her sword, turned, and walked away without a care. The other girl trembled uncontrollably. She must really have something wrong with her head. Adele was sweating profusely. Miss, are you all right? Renee stared at him. It was almost their group's turn, so she just nodded. Adele felt awkward. She wiped his sweat. Renee softly said, "Good job." The girl looked surprised. "Wow, what's your relationship? Are you dating a half-demon?" Adele was overjoyed. "I'm treated much better after passing," he softly thanked her. Renee looked at him. "You're hiding your strength, aren't you, to appear weaker?" Adele was surprised. The announcement rang out. Group 34, step forward. Renee turned and walked away. "I have to go, I won't tell anyone." Adele stood silently watching. "I used all my strength to pass. Do I look that weak? She probably thinks I'm a family servant." A voice rang out from behind him. "State your name." Adele was startled. "Me, oh, yes, my name is Adele." She pondered. "Adele, not a bad name, why did you call me over?" Asking why, she thought, "You interrupted me earlier." She crossed her arms, standing seriously. "Leave that bear's hussy and serve me." She thought calmly, "Now witness my undeniable charm, I'll take you and break that other girl's nose." Adele turned, unconcerned. "Sorry, but it's my lady's turn, next time. Waiting isn't effective, is it?" Adele was delighted. "Finally, I get to see Renee's full power. That girl's furious. You ignored me completely, huh?" Renee's group looks strong. Just how powerful is she? I'm looking forward to seeing the rest of the 7 deadly sins children. Both the Sword Saint and Renee emanated killing intent towards each other. Adele and everyone else were astonished. What a tense confrontation. The ending was even more shocking than I imagined. She stamped her foot. Renee and her group remained calm, without a hint of tension. Everyone watched. The orange-haired boy laughed heartily. "She's quite humorous, isn't she?" Seeing Renee walk towards the Sword Saint, Adele panicked. "She's going straight for the Sword Saint, what's she thinking?" Renee stared intently at him. Both glared at each other with killing intent. Silent anticipation. Renee began her attack. The Sword Saint did the same. In an instant, both sides started attacking. Renee unleashed a blow that sliced through the Sword Saint. Everyone was stunned. Not only did his sword break in two, but his arm also fell to the ground. Renee turned and walked away. A thunderous roar of cheers erupted from all the students. Instructor Aries was pleased. Not bad." Everyone chanted her name, Renee. Adele was shocked, disbelieving his eyes. "No way, did I see wrong? She won that easily." Adele suddenly realized that was why 90 Cell didn't attack Renee when she came. He had recognized her power level. Fran, standing nearby, commented on Renee. It's a shame I didn't get a chance to see her ridiculed, but at least she has the ability to confront me." Adele was amazed. "You mean if all the daughters of the 7 deadly sins gathered, they could defeat the Sword Saint?" She replied, "What, no one can defeat the Sword Saint now, maybe if the previous Demon King were still alive, but if those kids have skills exceeding 10% of the Sword Saint's power." She reacted strongly. "You're mocking me. Anyone with eyes can see that pathetic imposter is nowhere near 10% of the real Sword Saint's power." Adele was dumbfounded. He looked towards the fake Sword Saint, "And I struggled against an imposter who's less than half as strong as the real one. I may be the creator of this world, but I know nothing about the demon world." He smiled, but this anticipation was throbbing in his heart. Let's see how things turn out. The announcement rang again next to Group 35, only the 7 deadly sins remained. The exam became easy for them, perhaps influenced by Renee's test. The other children also defeated the Sword Saint. Group 40 passed. The orange-haired boy laughed heartily. Too easy. Next was a girl. The match was so one-sided that it was hard to discern the power difference between the 7 deadly sins children. Still, I knew who the 2 strongest were, so no worries. Instructor Aries announced the end of the entrance exam, and everyone gathered before the lectern. All students paid attention. "We will announce the results of the second test. All those who participated in the battle passed, regardless of victory or defeat." Others thought, as I did, that those who gave up failed. Renee remained calm, a stark contrast to everyone's joy. Congratulations to those who passed. From now on, you are officially members of Saitan, and official trainees. Instructor Aries didn't forget to remind everyone, causing anxiety but cautioning against excitement. A path of hell awaits you, difficult enough to make you want to give up. Finally, Instructor Aries announced loudly, those who passed, gather for the entrance ceremony in 2 days. Franz smirked at the instructor. The 8 who defeated the Sword Saint remained where they were. Renee turned and asked why they were being kept behind. He laughed. Don't you think he's trying to reward us with the armory he mentioned in the first test? Instructor Aries descended the stairs, approaching the students who defeated the Sword Saint. You all passed with flying colors, so as promised, I'll give you access to the armory. The orange-haired boy excitedly raised his hand. I have a question. Instructor Aries nodded. Speak, trainee Baltan. He blurted out, can we take out a lot of weapons? Saitan's weapons sound super useful. Adele watched intently, thinking, typical Leakin Baltan, son of envy, his greed and curiosity are boundless. He had a pretty decent run in my novel. Instructor Aries frowned and explained, no, using multiple weapons will distract you, you're only allowed one. As he spoke, Instructor Aries instructed everyone, we don't have much time, so no more questions, follow me, I'll lead you to the armory. Instructor Aries raised his hand and lightly touched the wall. He raised his hand and cast a barrier. The door suddenly glowed brightly before the students. Baltan was thrilled, others were astonished. This is the privilege Saitan grants you, whether you make the best or worst choice is up to you. They looked with suspicion, is this really an armory? Why does the door look like an entrance to a dungeon? Instructor Aries beckoned towards the door, saying, you may enter one by one, in reverse order from the second test. As a precaution, each of you will be checked upon exiting. Adele was suspicious, wait, I'm last, so he can do whatever he wants. The other guy was still excited, great, I'm first. He approached the door, waving, I'll pick the best one, haha. Instructor Aries scowled and yelled, shut up and go in. Renee calmly said, I'll choose an artifact, I already have a weapon. What about you, Adele? He smiled, I think I'll choose an artifact too. He paused, worried, wait, does that mean everyone else will do the same? What will be left for me? Renee looked bewildered. Instructor Aries called out, next, go in. The other guy came out wearing a crown, boasting, haha, isn't this awesome? Looked at the other 2 who got their desired weapons, feeling slightly disappointed. As expected, everyone came out with artifacts. Maybe I should have chosen armor. Renee gently reminded him, Adele, it's your turn. Adele looked at Renee, impressed. I see you chose a bracelet, can I ask what its properties are? She cheerfully explained, you'll know, there's a description inside. Adele was surprised, a description. Renee smiled, explaining, yeah, but some items don't have descriptions. Adele nodded, I understand, he thought, some don't have descriptions. He approached the door, does that mean they're worthless? I don't think so, they're being stored very carefully. Adele passed Instructor Aries, I'm sure they have something special. Instructor Aries said, you're the last one. He still glared at him. He said sternly, if you want to say anything, say it. Adele thought, his face says don't say anything. Adele, sweating, hesitantly asked, can I ask what it means when an item doesn't have a description? Instructor Aries replied, it means we haven't figured out exactly what it is. Adele excitedly asked, so, you haven't found out who its owner was or what its capabilities are? Exactly. If you're lucky, you might get an item with amazing abilities, but if you're unlucky, you might suffer a curse for the rest of your life. Adele was stunned. Instructor Aries urged, we don't have much time, so go in. Adele excitedly entered. Whether going last was good or bad completely depended on luck. The door opened, he stepped inside. He looked around, the interior was quite bright and tidy. Hopefully, nothing unexpected would happen. He saw another door glowing brightly, that must be it. He entered a room filled with many stored items. He passed a red sword, whoa, this is insane. Then he paused before a large spear, this spear looks quite unique, let's see the description. Twin Fang Spear, a spear used by an unknown demon to hunt snakes. The vengeful spirits of slain snakes reside within, and when infused with a certain amount of mana, the shapes of 2 snakes will appear. He looked at the spear thoughtfully. The description sounded important but its abilities weren't that great, because I already had a dagger so I didn't really need it. Next weapon, Starlight Crystal, a crystal orb imbued with starlight, once used by a skilled astrologer. By infusing a small amount of mana, you can borrow the light of the stars to illuminate your surroundings. Adele turned and walked away. It wasn't very compatible since he used dark magic. He could use it as a torch, but he decided against it. Suddenly noticing something unusual, Adele was intrigued. Why was this one empty? He wondered what item had been here. He bent down to read the description: the victor's crown, granting the wearer incredible recovery and stamina until their death. This artifact belongs to its owner until they die. Adele frowned unhappily. This is what Baltan wore on the head of that greedy bastard. Sighing with a little helplessness, he had removed bound items from his novel, but unexpectedly found one here. He looked around. Most of the good artifacts were probably already gone, leaving only empty boxes. The snake chains were gone. The boxes were all empty: flag of the demon general, insignia of the fallen noble. Adele yelled at the top of his lungs, "Aha, nothing left." He paused and thought, the 7 deadly sins took most of the good stuff. What should I do? He helplessly turned to the sword beside him. Adele looked at the solitary sword and thought, most of the armor and weapons weren't very good. It seemed he had no other choice, but if this was a cursed relic. Suddenly, Adele had an idea. That's right, he could use that method. He quickly took out paper and pen. He needed to save as much gold as possible, but he would use it now. Adele wrote on the piece of paper, "Tell me about the broken sword without a description in the armory. You must pay for this information." Adele focused and wrote, "Pay with a relic-level treasure or 100 gold coins." Remembering something, he turned, "Wait a minute, an old item in a box without a description. Tell me about the damaged scroll without a description next to it. You must pay for this information, at least 50 gold coins." He broke into a sweat. He suddenly understood. 50 gold coins, he got it. It told him the cost. He just needed to choose the most expensive item. He calculated that there were a total of 7 boxes without descriptions in this row, so he would ask in order. A blue-eyed hawk without a description. Tell me about the hawk-shaped black stone. Pay at least 1 gold coin. Adele felt extremely disappointed. If it was only 1 gold coin. The description was written as, "Exchanging the owner's good fortune for the misfortune of others." Adele exclaimed in surprise, "Definitely this one." Next. The next items: pay at least 100 gold coins, pay at least 50 gold coins. Adele gasped. Holding the paper, he hesitantly approached the next box. None of them were particularly good, only 2 left. A strange weapon was described. This is an artifact, at least mythical level, pay at least 300 gold coins. Adele rejoiced, "Wow, mythical level, what luck." Adele hurried. This was even better than the artifacts others had taken. He would take this one. Suddenly, a strange feeling made him pause. Adele turned to the box next to it. The box was glowing. Adele was surprisingly drawn to it. What was this strange feeling? It felt like someone was watching him. Inside the box was an elaborate necklace. That necklace, there was one last one. Adele wrote while thinking, is this also a sense of, tell me about this nameless necklace? Suddenly, Adele noticed something. Suddenly the paper floated and glowed. Adele was surprised. What? Why did the paper suddenly write, "You must sacrifice a god"? Sacrifice a god. The light flashed brighter. Adele was incredibly astonished and wondered, is this a legendary item? Adele was astonished. He thought he was done for, but unexpectedly he got lucky, looking at the floating paper. He carefully considered, wait, it's too early to celebrate. Which god should I sacrifice? Right now, I don't even have a minor god, let alone a demon god. Adele intently looked at the necklace inside. What exactly is this necklace? Adele tried to examine the necklace a little. Maybe he should try infusing some mana into it. But nothing happened. The necklace remained in its place. Adele looked at it with full of questions. Damn it, how frustrating. If only he knew its abilities. It only told him to sacrifice a god, nothing more. Not giving up, he continued writing on the paper. Maybe he should try some tricks. Tell me which god is related to the nameless necklace in the basement. The paper still wrote the same thing, sacrifice a god. Adele was full of questions. It didn't work. Adele hugged the box, looking regretful. Even if he rephrased the question, he would probably get the same answer. Should he give up? Don't hesitate anymore. Open the box and confidently take the necklace. No, I'm sure about it. After wearing it, Adele affirmed that this was something with value far beyond any ordinary artifact. my instincts tell me so. Let's read a little information about it to be sure, let's check it out. Just as I thought. Adele figured no one would be interested in this anyway, I can take my time to study it. Instructor Aries was surprised to see the item Adele had taken. What is that necklace? Adele stammered in response, it's one of the items without a description. Instructor Aries was surprised, you chose an artifact without knowing its function or origin. So you know something about it. Adele just smiled at the instructor. No, I don't know anything at all. He didn't say anything, just frowned at Adele. That made Adele sweat. He's making that face again, why does he hate me so much? Instructor Aries just turned around. Alright, I'll believe you. As an instructor of Saitan, I must trust my students. He turned to address everyone. Now, take good care of the artifacts you have chosen. In times of danger, they can even act as an extra life. All the students chorused, yes, sir. He looked at the students in front of him and sighed, everyone here except me, they are all people who have the potential to lead the demon world in the future, they will receive countless investments and support in the future. He felt a little self-conscious, if only I could get a little of that, how great it would be, can I really stay at Saitan? The armory gate gradually disappeared, and Instructor Aries said, alright, dismiss, we'll see each other again at the enrollment ceremony. Adele approached Renee, shall we go back to the dorm? Miss Renee nodded, yes. Suddenly a hand was placed on his shoulder, the person called him Team Leader 33. It was the orange-haired guy. Haha, sorry, was I too rude on our first meeting? Adele turned to look at Baltan. He raised his hand towards Adele excitedly, nice to meet you, I'm Baltan, your fighting style was truly impressive. Adele happily replied, nice to meet you too, Baltan, I'm Adele, this is unexpected, but hey, it's good he approached me first. But the smile didn't last long, Adele felt uncomfortable. This Baltan turned hostile, his hand squeezing Adele's tightly. Adele gritted his teeth in pain, ugh, this bastard, what the hell is he doing? It seemed that only now did he reveal his true nature. Baltan was the type of person who didn't care about the weak, he was only interested in the strong and driven by envy and greed. This Baltan is an extremely aggressive person, he once pushed the main character in the human world to the brink of death, but upon realizing the main character's potential, he spared him and said they would fight again later. In short, he's a battle maniac. He then pretended to ask Adele, what's wrong, you seem to be struggling. Adele forced a smile, nothing, there are stronger people around, why are you looking for me? Adele immediately used his magic, Baltan's sword suddenly glowed, position transfer, 2 targets set. Suddenly the sword disappeared, and he was standing behind Baltan. Adele said to Baltan, stop, okay, the test is over, everyone is tired. Adele felt his hand trembling, damn it, my hand. He just laughed loudly, ha ha ha, I didn't expect this. Baltan turned around with murderous intent, provoking him, you're strong, let's fight right here, until one of us dies. Adele was startled, he's crazy, he's a lunatic, I told you, I don't intend to fight. Renee shouted from the side towards them, stop it. She glared and challenged Baltan, if you want to fight my guard, you have to fight me too. The scene of the 3 of them fighting. Baltan stopped and said, haha, I love fighting, but fighting both of you is a bit too much, and I don't want to get injured before enrollment. But he didn't forget to turn back and laugh threateningly at Adele, well, there will certainly be more opportunities, see you later. Adele looked at him with apprehension, he said he didn't want to get injured before enrollment, but he wanted to fight me to the death, what a lunatic. Adele continued to stare at him intently, now that I've seen it with my own eyes, I really can't figure him out. Baltan raised his sword looking puzzled, when did he draw his sword? Renee called, let's go, Adele, yes, Miss Renee. He turned to smile at her, it's only been 1 day, but it feels like several days have passed, I'm starting to look forward to life in Saitan. The next morning, Adele woke up full of excitement. Standing by the window, he couldn't help but sigh, maybe it's because of yesterday's hardships, but today I feel unusually refreshed. He stood in front of the mirror constantly admiring himself, his body was much better, I'm definitely getting stronger. Cheerfully picking up the clothes, alright, let's try on the uniform that Saitan sent, they know where we are and sent it directly, they're quite thoughtful. Adele put on the uniform neatly, oh, it's more comfortable than I thought. Adele admired himself, they said that for 3 years we can't wear anything other than the uniform, but at least this uniform is practical. Then he suddenly thought of Renee. I also gave the uniform to Renee. I wonder what she looks like in it. Should I go check it out? Adele knocked on her door. A voice came from inside. Someone's there, Miss Renee. I'd like to ask if you need anything before we go out. The door opened a crack. Come in. Renee wears uniform. She stood shyly in front of the sunlight. Adele was incredibly surprised. He complimented her, saying she was beautiful, making her blush incessantly. Renee stammered, ahem, where are you going? Adele could see her ears were red too. He thought to himself, asterisk is she embarrassed? I didn't expect her to have such a cute face, asterisk. Adele smiled and said to her, it's a rare day off, so I was planning on taking a stroll around the city. Adele bowed politely, you should take some time to rest as well, Miss Renee. I'll take my leave. Adele turned to leave, but Renee called out, wait. She shyly avoided eye contact. You have something you need to do, right? Adele wondered, excuse me, something I need to do. Renee blushed and looked at him. Adele turned back to Renee and thought to himself, asterisk wait, did I forget something? Adele suddenly remembered, asterisk protection. Adele stammered, oh, right, I need to protect her, I forgot about that after getting excited about having a day off. Renee turned and said, I'll go with you, let me change clothes first, wait a moment. Still blushing, she said, are you going to stare at me all day? He suddenly realized, oh, of course, I'll wait outside. He stood outside her room and silently mourned his day off. The city was quite crowded and bustling. People were bustling with trade, the city was lively and clean, it was hard to believe a war had taken place 10 years ago. Adele looked at everything before him and thought, asterisk while reconstruction is still ongoing in the suburbs of the capital, it seems humanity won the war but couldn't take the capital. Renee gently tugged at his arm and called Adele. She pointed to a street food stall, let's eat that. Adele looked at her, understanding she meant street food, okay. Golden skewers sizzled over the charcoal fire. Adele approached the vendor and asked, what kind of skewers are these? The vendor replied, these are seasoned venison skewers with vegetables. Adele thought to himself. Renee stood beside him excitedly, asterisk I wonder if they're like chicken skewers, asterisk he said to the vendor, 2 skewers, please, thank you. She raised a skewer to her mouth and ate. They carefully enjoyed their skewers. This is good, do you like it? It's really good. He looked at her intently and thought, asterisk who would have thought that someone as quiet as Renee could show such an expression, maybe she's slowly opening up a little. The two walked past a city fountain. They walked and chatted enthusiastically. Adele thoroughly enjoyed it, asterisk it's been a long time since I had a real vacation, this might be the last time I have such leisure time. Then they both stopped in front of a statue. Adele looked up at the statue, asterisk a giant statue in the middle of the city, who is she? Adele pointed at the statue and asked Renee, who is this statue? You really don't know, it's the first demon lord. He looked at the statue and exclaimed, oh, the first demon lord, now that I think about it, she does look a bit like Diana. Adele suddenly thought, asterisk I won't have many chances to see the first demon lord up close, let's get closer to take a better look. The statue's eyes suddenly glowed. The necklace on Adele's neck also suddenly glowed. He grabbed the necklace in surprise. What's going on? The necklace is glowing. A beam of light from the statue transferred to the necklace. Adele held the necklace tightly and was incredibly astonished. Suddenly, something strange happened. One of the gems on the necklace turned gray. What in the world is happening? Renee called out, what are you doing, Adele? Why did you suddenly take out the artifact and look at it like that? Adele was still stunned. He continued to look at the statue with a puzzled expression, asterisk did I see wrong? No, I definitely saw the light coming from the statue, and the color of the necklace changed. Then he turned to Renee. She didn't understand what was happening, apparently, only he could see it. The statue returned to normal, even Adele had only received vague answers, like a god's sacrifice, but now he had discovered something important in the most unexpected place. Adele realized that the necklace was definitely connected to the first demon lord, asterisk if I investigate everything related to it, I'll surely find a clue. Renee called out, let's go back, yes, Miss Renee, but he still thought, asterisk I'm really curious about the true nature of this necklace. The next morning, at the academy. Both of them went to the academy after their days off. The next morning, after the vacation, Renee and Adele set off for Saitan. Adele gently called to Renee, hurry up, the entrance ceremony is about to start, okay. In the large hall, the principal stood on the podium to welcome the new students. The principal and lecturers were already sitting in the hall where the ceremony took place, and about 100 new students arrived. Adele thought it was just a normal admission ceremony. 2 new students below whispered to each other, unable to believe that that child was the headmaster of their school. That child is a monster who overwhelmed us just by its presence. One person praised the principal. She's cute though, Adele chuckled. It's easy to make a person's head positive. Adele looked at her and sighed. She was covered in tattoos and had the body of a child. You call that cute? What's wrong with her eyes? Suddenly, the headmaster's gaze fixated on Adele. Not only he, but the other students also flinched in fear. The headmaster radiated killing intent. Adele suddenly thought she was really cute. Can she read minds? Instructor Aries solemnly spoke loudly. Everyone fell silent. The enrollment ceremony shall begin now. With Instructor Aries's call, the enrollment ceremony began. Renee and Adele wore their uniforms and stood together. As the headmaster's rather ordinary speech was nearing its end, as the atmosphere began to calm down, you must abide by the rules of Saitan. The instructor then said, and so, the headmaster's speech has concluded. Now, we will begin the oath ceremony for the top and runner-up students. The 2 outstanding students are invited to the stage. Top student and runner-up, please come up to the stage. Adele silently observed. As expected, those 2 won those positions, Renee seemingly unfazed. He thought to himself, well, the only reason she enrolled is to avenge her mother. Perhaps she doesn't care about the competition. As for me, no matter what anyone says, I have to focus completely on what I have to do. Suddenly, Adele felt a shiver. A finger pointed directly at him. It's Baltan. He's still targeting Adele. That terrifying name again. What's wrong with this clingy name? Adele sighed, trying to regain his composure. No, don't react, ignore him, stay calm, don't get dragged into it. A girl stepped forward. The top student, please come forward. A beautiful figure walked with a cold demeanor. All the male students were in awe, including Adele, who was said to be blessed by the gods, the daughter of Demon King Diana. Now that she has won the top student position, who can stand in her way? The 2 top students stood before the headmaster and took their oath. I solemnly swear, we, who have been accepted into Saitan. The students all listened silently, to erase the shame and vow to rebuild the demon world. As her oath echoed, the atmosphere inside the auditorium shifted. Adele touched the dark mark on his neck, feeling the rage of those who lost their homes and families at the hands of humans. If someone discovers that I carry arson blood, just the thought is terrifying. A horrifying scene appeared, a scene of Adele being brutally tortured. In the worst-case scenario, I would be tortured forever. The ceremony is over. The Saitan enrollment ceremony is concluded. Instructor Aries, still frowning, yelled, students, please check the notice board at the back to find your assigned class. After confirmation, proceed to your designated classroom. Adele turned with a smile. Let's go, Miss Renee. The students looked at the academy's class assignment notice board. Adele looked intently. Let's see, I'm in class A, what about Renee? He welled up with tears. Too bad. He went back to tell her, you're in class C, Miss Renee. Honestly, I don't want us to be separated. Renee frowned, dropping the smile. She angrily turned and walked away. You're still my bodyguard, so it's best to come when I call. Of course, Miss Renee, right. He began to enjoy himself. Great, it seems I can relax a little now. Suddenly, he brushed past another student. The student glared angrily. He gritted his teeth. Do you want to die, you Cerberus-like bastard? Adele was surprised. Wait, this guy is. He immediately recognized him, the greedy family, Varus's son, Samuel. If I remember correctly, he's quite powerful among the 7 deadly sins. Him bumping into me and still causing trouble, it's ridiculous, but I should avoid him on a day like this. Adele brushed it off with a light laugh. Oh, I didn't notice, sorry. Samuel, with an irritated expression, yelled, Scram, you're lucky today's the first day of school. Why are the children of the 7 deadly sins like this? Adele secretly hoped Samuel wouldn't be in his class. There's no way Baltan would be in class A too, right? A loud bang on the table resounded. So you don't believe me? That's not the point. Idea couldn't help but speak loudly. I'm a full-fledged instructor of Saitan now. Aries calmly said, those children are too dangerous. I'm speaking from experience. It's better if I handle it. Not accepting Aries' offer, they are the students assigned to me, the class instructor, you can't just overrule me like that. The headmaster interrupted their argument, enough, sit down. Idea sat down resentfully, it's unfair, why is it always me? The headmaster wanted to know Aries' reason. Instructor Aries, what is your reason for wanting to change the class you're in charge of? I intend to handle student Adele myself, I've faced countless enemies like that child on the battlefield. Aries seemed to see through that boy who was born a murderer, he can point his blade at his allies at any time, so he must be restrained now. Another lecturer spoke up, aren't you being too cautious about a half-demon, really, he's significantly weaker than the children of the 7 deadly sins. No, strength isn't solely determined by power, Aries firmly stated, his daring and composure are no less than the 7 deadly sins. The other two looked at each other in silence. That's why I want to be in charge of Class A, Adele needs to be watched carefully. Idea said loudly, wait. So in the end you just mean you don't trust me? The principal sighed at their unending argument, I apologize if I've offended you, but when will you stop treating me like a child? Enough. The principal exuded a furious killing intent. The entire room fell silent. I understand Instructor Aries' concerns, but the classes have already been assigned, changing classes now would do more harm than good. Aries didn't argue further, I understand, however, caution doesn't hurt. The principal also instructed Idea, Instructor, please pay special attention to that child, yes, her face brightened, now, let's end this meeting. Instructors, please proceed to your classrooms and welcome your students. In Class 1A. Adele was disappointed, why am I so unlucky? Laurel Fran forced her way to Adele's desk, ha ha ha, it seems like you're relieved that it's not Diana, right? And it's not Baltan anymore. Laurel Fran curiously asked, you followed me here, Adele explained, the class assignments were random. Laurel Fran laughed gleefully, oh ho ho, wonderful, I'll grant you the privilege of being my slave here. It begins again. Samuel spoke, hey those two. If you don't shut up, I'll kill you both. Laurel Fran went crazy when she heard Samuel say that. What do you say, that famous kid? Samuel also did not respond well, what, that kid is killing people, Adele reassured herself, we'll get along fine, right? The door swung open. Everyone in the class fell silent, staring at the door. Instructor Idea entered, you're noisy, don't tell me you're planning to fight on the first day. The instructor was. Idea clapped his hands excitedly and introduced himself, welcome guys, I am the lecturer in charge of Class A. I'm Idea, remember your name. To introduce myself, I'm your senior, and people call me the Calamity Legion. Calamity Legion, Adele wondered about that name. Everyone started discussing the name, the infamous Calamity Legion single-handedly killed 10,000 people on the Pollux River, wasn't it 30,000? Adele smiled excitedly, such a powerful person is my instructor, maybe this will increase my chances of survival. This is the end of my introduction, so I'll go over how the classes will progress. Idea started writing hunting methods on the board, I'll teach you this. We don't hunt animals or beasts, Samuel gritted his teeth. A brave student raised their hand, so, what do we hunt? We will hunt one of the reasons you're here, humans. Humans, so, it really begins, everyone in the class exclaimed. Oh, I only teach hunting methods, magic and weapons will be taught by other instructors, Laurel Fran thought, she has a pretty face to be an instructor. Additionally, I'll be in charge of your basic physical training. Hearing this, Adele hesitated, thinking of her weakness. Now, let's begin the first lesson, everyone gather at the training ground. At the training ground, this area is vast, probably 4 or 5 times the size of a normal field. For weapons or magic, everyone was unsure what they would be learning. A voice echoed, all right, is everyone here? Idea began using her magic, focus and don't take your eyes off this. A black-pink hole is slowly growing. Suddenly, a troop of soldiers emerged from the black hole. The spectacle terrified everyone present. The army holding weapons stood behind Idea waiting for orders. They're not real people, Idea smiled slightly and explained, it's just an illusion I created with magic. Oh, I created the holy sword during the entrance exam, Idea playfully touched the face of one of the soldiers. A copy with roughly 1/10 the power of the holy sword, she's a monster. Adele silently assessed, Saitan is quite formidable, but the Royal Academy is far superior, truly terrifying. The task is simple, get past them and reach me, so, who should we start with? Idea immediately paid attention to Adele's words. Your name is Adele, isn't it? Idea suddenly said in a mystical tone. Why don't you try stabbing my neck? Just like you did with the holy sword. After Instructor Aries, now Instructor Idea is paying attention to me. Adele, slightly scared, asked, I'm not fighting you directly, am I? The instructor pointed out the key. Among them is an instructor, a source of spiritual power, and their leader. When their leader falls, they'll collapse like dominoes. And if their leader is strong, they'll be strong too. I'll be playing the role of their leader. Adele confidently drew her sword. I understand, I understand. Taking down the leader amidst those soldiers is too easy, Adele smirked. Of course, you won't be able to defeat me, so, if you touch my hand or weapon, you pass. Begin. Following the command, the soldiers attacked. 2 spatial shifts. A second later, she was behind Idea, a blade at her throat. Idea was surprised by Adele's agility. Does that count, instructor? Adele's breath was on Idea's neck. A few dozen meters separated me and the instructor, but now that distance means nothing to me. Initially, I could only move a few meters. This is tremendous progress. Now I could easily destroy an enemy base. I'm proud of my remarkable progress. Suddenly, Idea let out a hearty laugh. I understand why I was told to watch out for you, Idea said, pushing the sword away from her neck. You passed. Go back to your seat. Yes, I understand. Was it hostility or curiosity? I don't know what part of me provoked them so much. They didn't discover who I am, right? She sheathed her sword, lost in thought. Now you've seen what student Adele did, right? Those who fail will have extra lessons. Idea's words further frightened everyone in the class. Die, you humans, another student stepped forward to fight. They do the basics well, as expected of the demonic race. They're just ordinary people without power, so it's understandable. But they only defeated a few. If the instructor directly controls them, Adele watched, observing and analyzing. The soldiers started using different weapons against the student. Ouch, that must hurt. The student leaped up. I'll jump over all of you. Everyone looked up in surprise. Oh. The soldiers switched to bows and arrows, firing straight. The student fell with a cry, leaving everyone helpless. Spatial shifting is truly powerful. At this rate, I can aim for the top spot. I'm confident I can secure the top spot. Next student. Samuel stepped forward, coldly shouting, get out of the way. Samuel's turn. Let's see if his arrogant personality matches his skill. Adele also awaited Samuel's performance. Let's begin. Samuel emitted a green light around his body. Adele eagerly watched. He began accumulating magic. Then unleashed it, affecting the entire training ground with his power. Affecting her. He wiped them out in an instant. Is that magic? Samuel's unique ability, his greedy power, is a bizarre skill, devouring everything. I'll temporarily let him take the top spot. Suddenly, an unpleasant voice rang out, What's wrong with this class? Idea raised his hand and gently flicked Samuel's magic away. Well, it's understandable. There's no way a lecturer would be defeated by a student. You blew everything away except me. That's impressive, enough to shock me for a second. But unfortunately, you failed. Those words caused Samuel to freeze for a moment. The reason is, Idea snapped her fingers. And a group of soldiers instantly appeared. She said, if you don't kill their leader, people will always find replacements to fill the ranks. No matter how many you kill, it's like this. So many soldiers arrived so quickly, at least 200 of them. Idea didn't forget to praise Samuel, but your magic is quite powerful for a first-year student. I saw his hand that was hit was still trembling. Idea announced, next student. Samuel clenched his fists, angrily and heavily walked back to his seat, his face full of dissatisfaction, but he accepted the result quite well. Passing Adele, Samuel couldn't help but glance at him. Adele's confident face further angered Samuel. Samuel, your overconfidence in your abilities is why you failed. If you had focused on your objective like I did, you would have passed without any problems. Fran let out a loud laugh, ha ha ha. I've been waiting a long time, finally it's my turn. Oh, I wonder how she'll get through this. The other students started gossiping about her. She pointed at the soldiers, those lowly minions, dare you obstruct my path. Ho ho ho, she kept laughing shyly. Why isn't she moving, what's going on? Everyone was confused about what she was doing. Fran's face turned pale. What should I do? As expected of Fran, she didn't fight directly. She controlled her minions like a queen bee. Basically, she couldn't do anything without her minions. Fran stood frozen in fear. I need to do something. Suddenly, she seemed to have an idea. Fran turned her head with a pleading look. Help me, my slave. Adele was surprised by Fran's action.